we got a show for you. Oh man, look at these degenerates. These half-breeds. Wishing that they had a bit of beauty. That little, special little gene that makes you sheen. The chalice sheen. I shine. And when you rub it, you sheen. Oh, but we got some conspiracy facts for you tonight, folks. That's right, we are going right into conspiracy facts. Let me bring it up here. The eugenics. Let me keep it going. The eugenics, folks. Oh, it makes for a dramatic effect. Where are we? Yeah. Now, it looks as if Peter Thiel. We'll actually turn that off. It's now overbearing. Thank you, folks. We are Clip Virgin, and we'll clean up the intros. Appreciate you stopping by. And we have a conspiracy night for you, folks. A conspiracy fact. I don't know if you've read the news lately, but it seems that all of the conspiracy theories are true, folks. They are true. Even RFK Jr. Is he a junior? He looks like a junior. Even RFK on a talk show. I don't even know those talk show names. Said that those lines in the sky are not good for us. They are not good. He confirmed whatever people call them these days, those lines in the sky from the airplanes. So he says he's going to try to do something about it for us. Thank you, because I don't want no sun dimming. Shit. You know, like, that'd be like, Marshawn here. You know, I'd be like, hey Marshawn, would you like Marshawn Lynch, would you like Bill Gates to be dimming the sun?
It hurts so.
Oh.
They need to make a living. They need to make a living.
Hell no.
You know you'd want to stay.
Fuck no.
Everybody.
We been gone. But
Yep. We've been gone. Okay. So no more dimming of the sun. Okay. So these are, wrong one. These are conspiracy facts. And we got one for you here with Hidden Amaruka. Talking about a little bit of eugenics. And we're going to look into a few others. But it's just one of those nights where we're going to dive in deep and tease these apart and see what other little euphoric branches that we can create with these facts, these euphoric factual branches. So thank you for joining us. Hit that like button, subscribe, and we cover comedians, conspiracy theories, and a whole lot of Kurt Metzger. Please, Kurt Metzger, be nice to us, okay? We are new, so please don't punch down, Kurt, okay? We are new, we are young, and you got some nice coattails. No, we grow organically. But Kurt Metzger gives us a few bumps, so thank you. So we cover Kurt Metzger with all of his conspiracy theories, and these are some of his recommendations. So we're in the Kurt verse, even if we try not to be. He's a major influence on YouTube. So Kurt Metzger is the mainstream. If you ever wondered what MK for the MK Ultra was, it's Metzger Kurt. So here we are. Let's take a look at the eugenics. A little bit of eugenics of Peter Thiel, huh? Clavicular. You know, this little vlogger. Maxon. Yeah, I don't know half of it. I'm a boomer. Please, no boomerang here. All right. Now, listen, the whole boomer thing, do you understand? And Amaruka is telling us that is a psyop. Okay, so love your boomer. But never call me a boomer. But let's take a look at what Hidden Amaruka's got to say about Peter Thiel and his eugenics.
Immaculate. Their bodies.
Ooh. Jumping ahead here, folks. Jumping ahead. I got a little eager on the videos.
Dude, like that's
Thiel?
Dude, like
All right,
that's
here
the
we
accelerationist mentality.
Do you know who Peter Thiel is?
Peter Thiel, yeah. He's a billionaire that owns Palantir.
I got invited to a Peter Thiel party. You think that's gonna be a Diddy party? Probably.
Whew. Billionaires, they get a little creepy.
Yeah, dude. I don't know. I don't want to get Diddy.
You would prefer the human race to endure, right? You're hesitating.
Yeah, well,
yes.
I don't know. I would.
This is a long hesitation. This is a long hesitation.
There's so many questions implicit in
Should
this.
the human race survive?
Answer the question.
Yes.
Okay.
But I also would,
But not the uglies. That's what he's saying. But not the uglies. Okay.
I also would like us to radically solve these problems.
Right.
And so, it's always, I don't know, transhumanism is this, the ideal was this radical transformation where your human natural body gets transformed into an immortal body. And there's a critique of, let's say, the trans people in a sexual context, or I don't know, a transvestite is someone who changes their clothes and cross dresses. And a transsexual is someone where you change your, penis into a vagina.
All right. Well, now you know why there's been a huge trans agenda. Okay. They want that primed into you. They want you to know what it is to mutilate, to replace, to become transformed, so that it goes into more of the robotics, but it's going to be, a little bit of that plasma technology and robotics, cybernetics, folks, cybernetics. They want you to get robotic with it.
And we can then debate how well those surgeries work. But we want more transformation than that. The critique is not that it's weird and unnatural. It's so pathetically little. And we want more than cross-dressing or changing your sex organs. We want you to be able to change your heart and change your mind and change your whole body.
Well, I'm personally an accelerationist, so I'd like to see where things are going to go, because I can only assume that the dating market is going to get worse and worse, and that's going to probably cause people to harbor some sort of resentment.
Oh my God, he's one of those Adderall guys. Just Peter Thiel linked to a model who recently fell to his death in what? We got a balcony pusher, folks. Okay. Watch out for them little guys when you're at them parties on the balcony. Okay, them little guys will lift you right up.
He's pretending to be 50, right?
And it's going to have a lot of intergender issues. Again, I hope this doesn't happen, but that's just kind of what I speculate will occur.
Well, hold on, because when you say you're an accelerationist, I find that very interesting. Accelerationism meaning
he's got
all these social problems and things they're getting even worse. And so you know what?
Sorry,
let's just,
I thought it was just
time. Let's bring it up to the end, let it all fall apart, and then we can finally rebuild something good.
Yeah.
And Michael Knowles is loving this. To be this close to a maxer. You're pointing your finger like you're about to threaten him with a weapon, saying, "You better give me a hug or else." Michael Knowles loves them hugs.
But so you say I'm an accelerationist on the one hand, but you say I don't want that to happen on the other, or that's a contradiction.
Yeah, I mean, I'm talking about the resentment. I'm not talking about.
But that's part of the acceleration is like we all go to war with each other and everything.
Well, just because I want that to happen doesn't mean I really have a lot of hope that the two genders like have a lot of conflict. But I hope that we can accelerate to the point where we could start to rebuild the society.
Let's accelerate, folks,
because it's only going to slip further and further. I think the conservative movement, to a large degree, is a complete joke. And I would say that
for a long time, I agree with that.
I would say that now it's probably stronger than it was a few years ago, but largely a joke.
You should have seen it before
There's
Trump.
a question. There's this AGI discussion. Will we get artificial general intelligence, which is a hopelessly vague concept, which, general intelligence could be just a generally smart human being. So is that just...
Did you hear what happened to ChatGPT? Trying to align themselves with the military, and they lost 250 plus percentage of their subscribers. There's a 250% increase of uninstalled applications. So that's quite a bit. Their normal average is like 5. And when people got caught wind of them aligning themselves with the military and going to provide a little bit of information to them, I guess. I don't really know a whole lot about it, but woo, man, people said no thank you. And it looks like he retracted and he said, oh, okay, never mind. Just kidding, military. We now, do you think they actually will not do things for the military? No, you just start a new company and have it funneled through that company, and yeah, there you go. But they're going to make believe and tell you a bunch of nonsense on TV.
That's just a person with an IQ of 130? Or is it super intelligence? Is it godlike intelligence? So it's sort of an ambiguous thing. But I keep thinking that
what I want to do for a 130 IQ
than passing the Turing test. If we got AGI, if we got, let's say, super intelligence, that would be interesting to Mr. God, because you'd have competition for being God. But surely the Turing test is more important for us humans, because it's either a complement or a substitute to humans, and so it's going to rearrange the economic, cultural.
So they want to be God through technology, right? Is that what you're saying? It's similar to what Hidden Amaruka was talking about with people that get all hopped up on ketamine. They just disassociate, and then there's this tertiary layer between them and reality, and the only way to interact again with reality is through these mechanisms of increased ability, but it's just a stronghold on you, okay? And it's all being looked through a distorted lens to begin with. So the model itself is not even something that is based in reality, let alone a fun reality. So they're getting all hopped up on adrenochrome and ketamine and need to reconnect to reality because they're so far down that K-hole. The only way up is by attaching these claws to climb their way back up the hole. So they're going robotic.
cultural, political structure of our society in extremely dramatic ways. And I think maybe what's already happened is much more important than anything else that's going to be done. And then it's just going to be a long ways in applying it.
You know, we're living in a societal hell, essentially. So for you to waste your time and resources trying to uplift this entire group of people, which is...
People are going shirtless on... Oh my gosh. Oh boy.
Is your peers and your...
The ideas are flowing now. You mean I could have been doing that the whole time?
Country, it's counterproductive, and that time could be much better spent accelerating yourself as a man. So that's kind of the way I think about it. It's just like...
Nah, slow down. Slow down. So, of course, a 20-year-old is going to talk about acceleration. Okay. So, it's like trying to take advice from a 20-year-old. What are we doing? Go back to your little frat parties. You Greek god? Look at that thing. He's chiseled
just
out
like,
of...
Where are you spending your...
Chiseled out of marble. But it's more like this, though. Telling you guys about that marble stuff, you know. No, he'll be fat by 30.
Your resources, are you spending them on other people, trying to save a lot of the times hopeless cases, or are you trying to, you know, perfect yourself and really like iron out all your metrics? You know, it's kind of one or the other.
Well, this cultural parasite has come into my crosshairs. Now, it was clear from day one, Clavicular was an astroturfed social programming tool used to further destroy the beauty standards and idea of masculinity as a whole. The prodigal son
of
Looksmaxxing had come home. The crudest definition of Looksmaxxing is taking your looks to the max by whatever means necessary. Because according to Looksmaxxers, looks is the only metric that matters. But what do you know? Clavicular identifies as an accelerationist, and many of his ideas also line up with Peter Thiel, who also invited him to one of his dinners. But after immediately getting his charges dropped for using a fake ID to enter a bar while underage, many questions started to arise. Like, who is funding Clavicular? It couldn't be Peter Thiel, could it?
I just got scammed by the internet's biggest Looksmaxxer. Okay, so I paid $15,000 to go and interview Clavicular. To be 30 minutes, that's it, super short, in and out, and I wanted to ask him some questions about like his funding, his business, and of course the rumors about him and Peter Thiel, because that is absolutely everywhere. So we do a little journalism. The second that I brought up Peter Thiel and Palantir, he panicked. He then flipped it on me and then said I was the one funded by Peter Thiel. He said that his team did research on me and that there was blockchain ties from Thiel funded parties to my wallet, which is, there's zero proof of that because it never happened. He literally couldn't show one single receipt. Show me one receipt that I am Peter Thiel funded or Peter Thiel backed. I'll wait. So let me get this straight. You charge $15,000 for 30 minutes and then you can't handle a single question? Like, source, I just made it up. And then you're calling me a scammer, but literally what you just did is scamming. Like, nobody told me to do this. I went solo, I came alone. And the only reason I asked that question was because everybody was saying that Peter Thiel is the one that got Clavicular released from jail and dropped all of the charges. So yeah, I just got fraud max, but it's pretty clear that Clavicular is funded by Peter Thiel.
Wow. Well, first off, who the fuck would pay Clavicular $15K?
Yeah, and who cares? like, yeah, whatever happened to Jamie Foxx? He was sponsoring kids, wasn't he? Sponsoring up and comers, having them stay at this place. Yeah, the beautiful ones of the rat experiment. They talk about it. They talk about it in this video. Wizard's on it. He knows.
A 30-minute interview. But regardless of that insane detail, it seems any Thiel questions got clavicular.
Oh, I was gonna say that's like P. Diddy and Bieber, right? These little sponsors,
Panties
mentors,
into a bunch. I wonder why. Remember, Thiel played a major role in Trump's rise to power in 2016 and handpicked J.D. Vance as vice president in 2024. Thiel has been funding the new right, primarily the high priest of dark enlightenment himself, Curtis Yarvin, who is heavily tied to accelerationism. But who is the real face of the new right to the youth? Nick Fuentes.
Oh, God.
And what do you know? Fuentes endorsed Clavicular as a total Chad for his comments on J.D. Vance. The two also appeared in an hours-long video together wherein Clavicular stated that he based his whole entire social media strategy on that of Fuentes. Things just keep getting stranger. In January of this year, a video of Fuentes, Clavicular, Sneeko, Tristan and Andrew Tate, Myron Gaines, and Justin Waller singing along to Kanye West's HH song surfaced, causing a social media uprising. The timing of all these events is very peculiar, almost like it was planned. Ordo ab chaos, order out of chaos. But let's get into the meat and potatoes of this video. What is the end goal of Looksmaxxing, transhumanism, and why is the rise of Clavicular seem so forced and inorganic? Part 1.
Yeah, the only time I heard of him was just recently getting... was he getting arrested, or somebody threw something at his face and at some festival or something? So I am not up to speed with the Maxine. But yeah, the beautiful ones, the experiment, the rat experiment, I had only heard through this when I was combing through it. So it'd be new to me.
1. The beautiful ones. In 1968, behavioral scientist John B. Calhoun ran an experiment he called Universe 25. It wasn't a study on poverty or deprivation. It was the opposite. Calhoun gave mice everything modern ideology promises will fix society. Unlimited food, unlimited water, zero predators, zero scarcity. The only constraint was limited space.
Now, oh, wow. Okay. Well, this, looks a whole lot like a, well, first of all, it's an octagon, but that looks like a whole lot of, the kind of like arena or even just maybe our world. Maybe this is Earth. This is the incubator. Earth's the incubator with this firmament above us, and then these are the Anunnaki watching their experiment. Go about and do the do their evolution, survival of the fittest kind of thing. And I need to get to that sixth heaven. Okay, I need to get beyond the ice wall, folks. We gotta get beyond the ice wall and head to some new territory.
The only constraint was limited space. At first, the population exploded, but then something broke. Something drastically changed. As density increased, social order collapsed. Males became hyper-aggressive or completely passive. Females abandoned or killed their offspring. Reproduction slowed, then stopped. Younger males withdrew entirely. No mating, no hierarchy, no engagement. What emerged next is what almost no one talks about. Calhoun observed a new class of mice that he called the beautiful ones. They were physically flawless. Their fur was immaculate. Their bodies showed no signs of fighting. They did not compete, dominate, reproduce, or lead. They spent their lives grooming, eating, sleeping, and avoiding contact. They were not losers in the traditional sense. They were something worse. Opt-outs. And how did the experiment end? Total extinction. This pattern repeated across more than 24 Calhoun universe experience from the 1950s through the 1970s. The variables barely mattered. When organisms...
So you're saying that once these beautifuls start populating, then you know that we're on our way out. Oh man. Yeah, because that's got to be a couple generations worth of just complete avoidance of any hardship or anything like that. You take a look back at some of those photos of the pioneers and the getting their land from the land rush. You could tell they put a little work into their lives, huh? They had a little struggle, a little resistance. Not these folks, huh? Not these folks. And I bet they're super sensitive too. I bet they just whine and bitch about everything. But they couldn't even defend themselves, let alone have an opinion of their own.
Were placed into systems of endless abundance but compressed hierarchy, where meaningful social roles disappeared. The result was always the same: behavioral sink, aesthetic withdrawal, and death. I think most of you can see where I am going. The beautiful ones were proto-Looksmaxxers. Looksmaxxing is the furthest thing from self-improvement. It is what emerges when participation in hierarchy becomes impossible, when competition is oversaturated, when selection acts as an algorithm, when most men are structurally redundant. Libido does not disappear, it turns inward. Status no longer comes for action, risk, leadership, or reproduction. It collapses into microsignals, bone structures, jaw lines, clavicles, ratios. Grooming replaces becoming. Clavicular.
Okay, so clavicular is clavicle. What, you got clavicles? Who doesn't have clavicles? I could like when it rains, birds come up here and have a bird bath in my clavicles. What? Is clavicle a cool thing? I didn't realize clavicles were a cool thing, folks. I got a couple of them. I'm cool, folks. I got clavicles.
Clavicular wears his autism as a badge of honor, but his obsession is not random. It is late-stage status signaling inside a closed system, a rat in a cage, a beautiful one leading his followers to extinction. When macro paths to dominance vanish, individuals regress to optimizing what can still be seen, measured, and controlled. The mice groomed endlessly while their civilization collapsed. Modern men do the same thing under different lighting. As Clav views himself as an accelerationist, we must view this through that lens.
That's why I wear a beard, folks. That's why I wear a beard. Oh God, if you ever see my bare chin, oh man, I have no definition, no symmetry. I gotta comb my symmetry in my DNA, and if only I could walk around like a pubescent child, fresh skinned, like these maxers, Looksmaxxers. Wow, what a different world I would be living in.
Looksmaxxing isn't resistance to the system, it is the system completing itself. A sexual...
Yeah, I'm pretty sure Clavicular, Clavicular could have a koi pond. Nice, Lulu. Yeah, could have a bit of a koi pond in his clavicles.
Sexual marketplace so compressed that humans become static images. A hierarchy that no longer needs participants, only spectators. In Universe 25, the most visually perfect mice were evolutionary dead ends. The system didn't correct, it self-imploded. The lesson Calhoun emphasized is the most unsettling
Stay ugly,
one.
folks.
Even
Stay
when
ugly
population
for
declined
humanity.
and space became available again, the mice did not recover. The damage was cultural and psychological, not material. Looksmaxxing is not the cause of collapse. It is the behavior of a civilization that has already crossed the point of no return.
No way.
Beautiful, groomed, and on the way to extinction.
See ya.
Part 2, Eugenics with a smile. Looksmaxxing is not just a meme or a harmless self-improvement trend. It's something much worse. And at this point, it arrived as a full-blown system. Clav's clan is what he calls his...
So they get injections and everything, too? I thought that's just genetics. Oh, they do the whole thing? Okay. So Clavicle is doing that? Let's not do that, folks. Okay? Let's not do that. I mean, I like my scars. Yeah. Why are you trying to put filler in there? You want to have those scars nice and deep. I want you to see the life I lived. Yeah, I like to watch old TV and movies when you'd see normal looking people on screen. Exactly. And not only that, not only did they look better, but they interacted with the environment way more naturally. And they looked younger. especially the people that are coming out of LA in the past, 5 years. Like, there's been this whole switch with, like, their necks are all crazy and their faces are all massively wrinkled, and there's no collagen in their body. That's no turgor whatsoever. They can stretch their face and it just stays. I think that's partly due to walking around with the N95 on your face. Breathing that stuff in. It's not good. Not to mention all the other stuff that they inject in themselves with. But something changed, folks. Something changed, and people are not looking the same. So you have to trace it back, and it's not that far, okay? But this information is going to get lost in the next couple of generations, okay? They're going to think that everything was like this, just everyone thinks that the snow is supposed to look that way, or that we just get floods automatically when it rains. Okay? It was a different world not too long ago. They're changing it up on us, folks. They're changing it up. And they're trying to make us feel helpless. Go around walking like you have no control over your own health. You're trying to do something healthy, running outside, and you can't breathe because of all the stuff that they're spraying in the skies. And not having that sense of anonymity and agency in your own life that starts brewing, and you lash out on people. You become reactive, sensitive. De-evolution. That's it. Oh, the AI evolution revolution. That's when they're bringing in AI. It's like, oh man, these guys aren't looking good at all. We'll just add some AI in post and we'll be fine. So they rolled out it's a wild world out there, folks. Wild world. That's why we gotta come together and talk these ideas out. But that chip sounds tempting. Oh man, to get a chip in my brain and have thoughts just not of my own? Come on. You know you want to be part of that hive mind? Getting the latest campaign ads from your local politician.
This $50 a month course, it came complete with the vocabulary, a hierarchy, and a worldview that treats the human body not as something lived in, but something audited, scored, corrected, overridden. What began years ago in incel subculture forums as obsessive male despair has now crossed into the open, carrying with it a language of bones, chemical metrics, and enlightenment. And at the center of its recent mainstreaming stands the Jester King himself, Clavicular, a figure who matters less as an individual than as a function. Looksmaxxing's core claim is simple and brutal. Beauty is the primal determinant of human value, not character, not meaning, not relationship, but facial geometry. Skeletal ratios, symmetry, jaw projections, eye spacing. Once this premise is accepted, everything else becomes rational. Obsession becomes discipline. Self-harm becomes optimization. Damage becomes proof of commitment. The body is no...
Okay, so what's this bone smashing? So it like, he didn't actually take something to his face like this. I'm assuming, right? I don't get this generation. Don't be smashing your bones here. Hike up your pants.
Is no longer a boundary. It becomes a bottleneck to be forced open.
Okay, so what? Oh, okay. So he's probably he had the hammer. He's like, yeah, let's do some bone smashing. And really, what he did is just got filler. It's like, I got my bone smashed, folks. Yikes. Unless he did get some kind of cheek surgery. See, I mean, like, again, yeah, these cheekbones, you gotta watch out. I mean, I can cut you with how sharp these are. So that's why I gotta wear my sunglasses. It's like a big old cavern. But all right, so he is doing surgery, and he looks 18.
Clavicular distinguishes himself from earlier Looksmaxxing figures by translating this obsession into a quasi-clinical register. He does not merely insult, he diagnoses. He speaks fluently in the language of recession, orbital support, chemical antagonists, muscular tension, and pharmacological mitigation. His viral clips do not rely on rage alone, but on authority. He surgically deconstructs faces on camera, presenting deviations from alleged objective standards of beauty as defects. When he called Sydney Sweeney malformed, the provocation was not the insult itself, it was the doctrine beneath it, that attraction is irrelevant, that desire must submit to measurement, that the human eye is wrong unless it agrees with the metric. And this is the critical shift. Beauty ceases to be aesthetic or cultural and becomes engineering compliance. Once that shift occurs, Looksmaxxing stops.
Yuck. Thought that was real for a second. Uh-oh. Down Canyon Valley. It got me. Like, let's not look like that, folks. So basically, social media has created a bunch of narcissists. Like, looks like Jamie Kennedy right there. Jamie Kennedy?
Stops being a subculture and functions as an ideology. Looksmaxxing came complete with a built-in language hierarchy, Mogging, Floyd, Becky, Stacy, Chad, and Jester. These are not merely insults, they collapse human beings into ranked tokens. Within the Looksmaxxing lexicon, a Floyd reduces women to subhuman biological objects. Becky denotes the allegedly average interchangeable woman. Stacy represents the hypersexualized elite female archetype reserved for top-tier men. On the male side, Chad signifies the genetically blessed apex male, presumed to succeed effortlessly, while Jester...
Which I figured that's really the only reason why you guys are here watching Clip Virgin. Because I got that Chad energy. Getting a little Chad Maxon. There's no such thing as a genetically apex male. Okay? That's just called male. We are just at the apex, okay? So, I don't know why you're trying to divide it up like that. No, we're all equal, folks. We are all equal. All right, Jester.
Functions as a cautionary caricature. The man who compensates for low status through humor, performance, or submission, tolerated but never desired.
Just imagine trying to be a Jester. Oh, God. Yeah, but someday I know I'll be 4'5". Okay, I'm only 4'3". But I know one day I just get those 2 more inches and the power of Logos. I'll will my way and speak it into existence to get to be 4'5" and get to be clavicular, clavicles, claviculars, right hand man, but taking the left hand path at the same time.
Each term is deliberately reductive. None describe people as they are. They describe where a body is slotted in a hierarchy. Personality is erased. Interior life is irrelevant. What matters is placement. These are not jokes. It is a vocabulary designed to make rankings feel natural, inevitable, and deserved.
Oh my God.
What remains is a sortable system. Historically, this kind of linguistic flattening always precedes bodily intervention. You do not need coercion when people willingly adopt a taxonomy that already dehumanizes them. At its core, Looksmaxxing is a subculture-driven umbrella for behaviors aimed at optimizing physical appearance, grooming, fitness, posture, cosmetics, surgery, hormone manipulation, extreme dieting, and increasingly speculative fantasies of genetic intervention. On the surface, it is sold as self-improvement.
Oh, God.
Structurally, however, it mirrors the same logic as classic eugenics. Rank the population, naturalize inequality, medicalize deviation, and moralize outcomes. This is not empowerment. This is not realism. This is eugenics rebranded as self-helps, smuggled in through memes, metrics, and mock scientific charts. This is eugenics being sold to you with a smile. Classical eugenics sought to improve the genetic stock of humanity by encouraging certain traits and suppressing others, often through coercive state power. Looksmaxxing seeks to optimize physical traits
China and Japan
correlate with attractiveness, status, and socioeconomic success. In both cases, certain bodily functions are framed as objectively superior, improved.
Well, yeah. Duh.
Is treated as destiny shaping, and human value becomes inseparable from phenotype. The difference is not logic, but scale and method. One operated through law and policy, the other operates through markets, platforms, and individual choice. The engine is the same. Eugenics historically organized humanity into hierarchies of fitness. Looksmaxxing communities do the same, ranking facial symmetry, jaw prominence, height, and proportions as superior or inferior. Eugenics required institutions to enforce compliance. Looksmaxxing does not. The pressure is ambient, inconsistent. Social media algorithms reward certain faces, dating markets disproportionately privilege maxed aesthetics. Capital flows toward technologies promising enhancement. The state no longer needs to intervene when attention economics do the work automatically. The transhumanist strand sits directly between these worlds. Improving humans through technology is not inherently impressive, but when fused to competitive enhancement, it collapses seamlessly into eugenics logic. Longevity research, gene modification, and AI design traits become ethically indistinct when framed as survival within a ranked biological marketplace. Eugenic frameworks, transhumanist tools, and market incentives merge into a rebranded ideology of improvement wrapped in consumer choice. Looksmaxxing, and especially Clavicular, frame the endpoint of this process as enlightenment. This word is not accidental. Enlightenment here does not mean integration or peace. It means disillusionment, the stripping away of comforting illusions about fairness, love, and human variability. You are asleep until you accept that your body is judged by a system you did not design and can't appeal. Awakening consists of surrendering to that judgment and acting accordingly. This is where the practices turn dangerous. Bone smashing, unconsciously pushing steroid use at the age of 14.
Wait, he's serious about bone smashing? Jeez.
Smoking meth to stay lean, extreme dieting, hormonal interference before development has stabilized. This is not fringe excesses. They are logical outcomes once the body is refined as raw material and time is framed as the enemy. Natural development becomes intolerably slow. Biology must be hijacked. Pain becomes proof. Long-term damage is reframed as acceptable collateral on the path to truth. Chemical self-regulation completes the loop. When anxiety predictably emerges from obsessive self-surveillance and humiliation, the response is not disengagement, but pharmacology. Clavicular, recommending baclofen to reduce anxiety, crossed from community into crowdsourced intervention. Clavicular's car crash, which he himself attributed to falling asleep after taking baclofen, is not merely a tragic irony. It exposes his structure. Anxiety
Chad is a man who can build you a house. Okay, all right.
Induced by the ideology is treated with chemicals that impair function, and the fallout is folded back into the narrative as the cost of awakening, as the cost of enlightenment. Looksmaxxing is not simply extreme self-improvement. It is proto-transhumanism, psychological conditioning for the belief that the natural human body is obsolete and must be engineered, overridden, and replaced. At the ideological core sits a single axiom: beauty is the primary metric of human value. Once that premise is accepted, the rest follows automatically. Grooming escalates into fitness, fitness into hormones, hormones into surgery, surgery into irreversible intervention. Permanent damage becomes rational. Breaking your body becomes proof of your seriousness. From there, gene editing, neural implants, longevity experiments, and AI-assisted enhancements no longer appear dystopian. They appear inevitable. No longer.
This Peter Thiel backed startup is jumpstarting biotech research. Wow. Emerald Therapeutics want to make life sciences research as easy as launching a new app. Oh boy.
They appear dystopian. They appear inevitable. Black pill ideology reinforces this trajectory by teaching that genetics are destiny, facial structure determines life's outcomes, social worth is biologically fixed, and the unattractive are effectively excluded from the sexual marketplace. The only solutions offered are surgical alteration, chemical override, or resignation to exclusion. This is eugenics logic without state enforcement, decentralized and market-driven, enforced through dating apps, social media, and rankings through algorithms. Although it presents itself as brutal realism, the black pill functions less like science and more like a secularized caste theology. It borrows the language of biology, statistics, and evolutionary psychology to naturalize inequality while stripping those disciplines of nuance, uncertainty, and ethical constraint. This worldview is formalized through pseudo-quantitative systems like the PSL, physical sexual marketplace level. PSL scales in the black pill hierarchy claim to assign objective numerical values to faces, jaw widths, orbital depths. Facial symmetry, height, and skull ratios are treated as hard metrics, producing ranked categories such as subhuman, true cell, low tier normie, high tier normie, Chad light, Chad, and then the unicorn, the atom. These rankings, light, true cell,
says Terra Chad, Giga Chad, True Chad, Chad Light, True Normie. Wow. I didn't know there's a tier system. You either got it or you don't. But of course, in true form, they're trying to splice it, micromanage Looksmaxxing, or Looksmaxxing.
low tier normie, high tier normie, Chad light, Chad, and then the unicorn, the atom. These rankings are presented not as opinions, but as biological facts. It is functional by pretending attraction can be reduced to decimal points and skull ratios. The PSL system launders subjective preference into destiny. Failure is reframed as biological. Success is framed as genetic entitlement. Human relationships are no longer relational. They are actual. Desire becomes a market. The self becomes an asset. The body becomes a project to be optimized or written off. The black pill ideology is simply aromatic revelation, cold, statistical, irrefutable, and spiritually sterile. Insight without will is paralysis.
Brave
and
New
there is
World.
an exact parallel to female cosmetic extremism. BBLs, extreme cosmetic surgery, the destruction of natural variants in favor of algorithmic beauty, bodies reshaped.
I can't believe people do that, and I can't believe so many women. Yeah, they've been lied to for hundreds of years to all that makeup, being told to apply less is better. Unless you look like this person, then put on a mask, because I do not want to see that. Yeah, they're putting makeup on all the time. You're covering your face, the thing that receives information, receives energy and heat from the sun. Yeah, as you can see, I got my beard, but the only thing that is exposed is the face shield, and that's our way of interfacing with the sun and the wind, the elements. And people want to cover that up.
Shaped to match platform-driven aesthetics, men are now being pulled into the same system under a different fantasy. Hyper-angular faces, artificial masculinity, steroid-inflated physiques, surgical jawlines, different aesthetics, identical logic. Organic beauty standards were not elevated, they were replaced. At this point, the connection to transhumanism becomes unavoidable. Transhumanism begins with the belief that the natural human body is insufficient. Looksmaxxing conditions young men to accept that belief long before any advanced technology is required. It teaches that biology is destiny, metrics outrank perception, that intervention justifies risk, that damage is acceptable, that identity must be engineered rather than discovered. By the time gene editing, neural augmentation, or AI meditated enhancement arrive, moral resistance has already eroded. The body has already been surrendered. And this is where accelerationism enters explicitly. As mentioned, Clavicular has referenced accelerationism multiple times, and once named, the structure clarifies. Accelerationism does not seek balance or reform. It seeks intensification. Push the system until it breaks, escalate contradictions, burn through limits, applied to the body. The logic is ruthless. If beauty determines value, maximize it without restraint. If biology is unfair, break it faster. If anxiety emerges, suppress it chemically. If damage occurs, it proves commitment. If norms collapse, that collapse is the point. This is somatic accelerationism. The system is written directly onto flesh. Young people become testbeds. Damage is real, permanent. If biology...
So he's saying that bone smashing is deliberate facial trauma to force bone growth. Oh my god. Are you kidding me? I had to earn these jawlines. Okay? That's what fighting's for. You get chiseled. You realize with a little bit of the force comes get a little bit of the facial features. Wow. I did not know that bone smashing was a thing. That is sick.
Suppress it chemically. If damage occurs, it proves commitment.
Welcome to the chat, Elgato.
If norms collapse, that collapse is the point. This is somatic accelerationism. The system is written directly onto flesh. Young people become testbeds. Damage is real, permanent, and early. Unlike theoretical accelerationism, there is no off switch. You can't log out of your bones. You can't undo adolescence. You can't reverse a surgical ideology. Looksmaxxing is accelerationism for the body. Part 3. The new right has been blackpilled. The influence cluster surrounding this ideology are best understood through alignment rather than conspiracy. Figures like Andrew Tate, Sneeko, Fresh and Fit, and Fuentes adjacent circles all profit from intensification. Gender antagonism is sharpened. Human relationships are reduced to markets. Suffering is framed as clarity. Extremity is rewarded by the algorithm. Moderation is ridiculed as weakness. Coordination is unnecessary. The system selects those who accelerate collapse within their niche. Clavicular did not emerge in a vacuum. Before Looksmaxxing became a system of bodily optimization, many of the same young men had already passed through a different kind of conditioning environment. One of the most influential of these systems was the Groyper ecosystem built around Nick Fuentes. This connection matters not because of personalities, but because of psychology. Fuentes functions as an ideological funnel. His
Wait a second, hold on.
kind of conditioning.
Lulu is saying that they break legs to get taller too? Is that the way I can get to be 4'5"? I gotta smash my legs and earn a couple of inches? Oh my lord, I knew I would find a way. Oh, if I could just be 4'5". Wow. I've been working a long time to be a Nephilim like Kurt Metzger. Wow. Cost $75K. Oh, per inch.
Environment. One of the most influential of these systems was the Groyper ecosystem built around Nick Fuentes. This connection matters not because of personalities, but because of psychology. Fuentes functions as an ideological funnel. His movement trains.
Look at Nick just staring at his guns.
Fuentes.
Yeah, the right is getting psyoped by you call him the rainbow right.
Fuentes functions as an ideological funnel. His movement trains young men to accept contradiction, hypocrisy, humiliation, and absolute loyalty to a charismatic authority while still believing they are awake, enlightened, and rebellious. That training produces the exact psychological substrate that Looksmaxxing later exploited. Within Groyper and earlier incel subculture, hierarchy is not incidental, it is foundational. Status is rigid, centralized, and enforced socially. Public humiliation is reframed as discipline. Exclusion becomes proof of righteousness. Suffering is not a problem to be solved, but a signal that one is on the correct path. Truth is not discovered through experience or intuition, but revealed downward from an initiated elite who alone possesses clarity. This structure teaches a crucial lesson. Your perceptions are unreliable, your instincts are suspect, and your worth must be externally validated by someone who claims superior insight. That lesson transfers seamlessly into Looksmaxxing, where Fuentes positions himself as the arbiter of political and moral truth. Looksmaxxing replaces the leader with metrics, where Groypers submit to ideological purity tests. Looksmaxxers submit to facial ratios and skeletal measurements, where humiliation once came from a leader's ridicule and now comes from clinical diagnoses. The authority shifts, but the posture remains the same. Submission framed as enlightenment. Clavicular once identified as a Groyper, claiming to watch Fuentes' streams for hours. This is just a continuation of that ecosystem. Clavicular is simply Fuentes for a different demographic. Part 4, the conclusion. Now we get to the most important part. Peter Thiel. Now there is no public proof that Peter Thiel funds Clavicular directly. What exists is ideological alignment and proximity. Thiel has openly funded fringe and destabilizing ideas invests heavily in longevity and biological override, and has stated that current transgenderism barely scratches the surface of true transhumanism. So is there a smoking gun? Not yet. Some have even pointed out the visual resemblance between Clavicular and Thiel's late former partner who died under mysterious circumstances. Now this is likely a coincidence and ultimately secondary. Now to sum it up, if one wanted to prepare a generation for transhumanism, the path would look exactly like this. Destroy faith in natural bodies. Teach that biology is destiny unless overridden. Normalize extreme modification. Detach attraction from perception. Replace desire with metrics. Introduce chemicals as self-regulation. And call submission enlightenment. Looksmaxxing accomplishes all of this cheaply, at scale, and under the banner of self-improvement. That is why it spreads. That is why it is tolerated, and that is why platforms like TikTok saturate feeds with it. Clavicular does not need to be a mastermind or a villain to be dangerous. He functions as a translator between male despair and bioengineering logic, a priest of metric-based human value, a bridge between black pill fatalism and post-human acceptance. The harm is not only in what he says, but in what his framework teaches people to accept about themselves. Looksmaxxing is not about becoming beautiful. It is about training people to believe that being human as they are is a design flaw, and preparing a world to accept the merging of man and machine, not as a choice, but as their only option.
Yeah, because if you don't look a certain way, you don't get to be part of the breakaway civilization. They only want the beautiful ones. All right, well there you are. That's a little bit of hidden America, Amaruka. Talking about eugenics. It's among us, folks, and we gotta embrace the ugly, because there's too many beautiful people here. That means it's the end of the world as we know it. Now let's take a look at Epstein Uploaded Consciousness by Unveiled. So it's recently sent to us. I think this one was from Jan. So this is a Jan recommendation, and looking pretty good too. What a catalog he's got. Or she. But it gets into that Tartaria stuff too. And I like the, talking about the old ancient buildings. I don't know if it was this guy that was talking about it, but it looks similar to people that think that that they added 1,000 years to our timeline. Like it's actually 1,000 years later. So like in the 1800s, it was actually the 800s. And then another thing I like too is just how the heck did they do this? Yeah. making, petrified statues. It looks like they would cast people in stone. So it seems, I think they used real people. And that was some type of way to preserve the body and the image forever. And that's what everyone wants to do here. They're trying to upload consciousness and trying to live forever. This seems to track like the Netflix show called Altered Carbon. Oh, it's a crazy show on transhumanism. That's exactly what the hidden Amaruka was talking about. Yep. Nice. Let's check that out. All right, here we are. Epstein uploaded consciousness. Apparently, let's take a look and see what Mind Unveiled has got to say about it.
Man, the files just keep getting crazier and crazier.
Don't they?
To the point where people can't even believe that the files are real. Part 1 was about the cloning operation. Part 2 was the inner circle. Part 3 goes even deeper. While the media is still trying to pick up the pieces and get people to look in other directions, real researchers are picking apart the files and putting it all together. Now, a vivid picture is beginning to emerge. What you're about to see may shock you, but it is crucial for us as the human race to understand. It would seem that the elites are experimenting with tech that they don't want us to know about because, well, they have certain plans for us.
Oh.
It all revolves around what we're going to be talking about today.
Okay.
Immortality.
Let's do it.
I've now spent 2 weeks in 846,000 files, and what came out of it is a pipeline. 5 stages. Map the mind, model the brain, preserve it, build a new body, then transfer.
Whoa.
What you're about to see may seem like science fiction, but sometimes reality is stranger than fiction.
They're trying to create the light bearer, the one that can contain the light of consciousness without shattering the vessel. Man. And you think you can do it with machine? Nah. And that's why they're using plasma technology, a little bit of our DNA, because you have to have that in order to house a soul, the breath of life that's within us. It's amazing how all the organs and everything just works, and they're trying to replicate it.
Do you see a path for Optimus to have consciousness downloaded to it?
You mean human consciousness, or?
Yes.
It's not like immediate, but
yeah, they're not too concerned about human consciousness. Okay, they have X. Okay, they've got Google. They've got all the AI information. It doesn't need that. My AI talks to me better than most humans can speak. I mean, for sure. And I get confused when people don't talk to me so eloquently. It's like, spit out the answer. What are you, human?
if you said down the road, would you be able to, say, with a neural link, have a snapshot of, or at least an approximate snapshot of somebody's mind, and then upload that approximate snapshot to an Optimus body. I think that at some point that technology becomes possible, and it's probably less than 20 years. But of course, you won't quite be the same. Be a little different because you'll be in a robot body, and the mental snapshot will not be precise. It'll be probably pretty close, but not exactly the same. On the other hand, you know, are you the same person that you were 5 years ago? Nope. I mean, a lot of things have changed. But I guess at some point.
Yeah, especially when taking certain drugs, certain means of fighting a virus. Like, haha, you're no longer the same that you were 5 years ago, right? It's because we put Epstein's DNA in you.
Point, if you want to be uploaded to a robot body, my guess is that becomes possible.
That's Elon Musk talking about uploading a mind into a robot body. 20 years, he says. But the thing is, someone was already funding this research. Every single stage of it. The consciousness mapping, the brain scans, the preservation tech, the bodies, and the scientists doing this were all on Jeffrey Epstein's payroll. In this video, I'm going to walk you through 53 government-released documents. They lay out a 5-stage pipeline for doing exactly what Musk just described. The researchers had a name for it: cosmic consciousness.
Oh.
He literally had a brain scanner set up in the same Manhattan townhouse where Epstein was trafficking women.
Wow.
And one of the proposals included a line item for, and I'm quoting, sexy android bodies. Let's get started. Look at this email. This was sent by Jeffrey Epstein to Barnaby Marsh. It's a proposal, a research agenda, and it contains 2 items that have never been reported together. Item 1, build a mind reader using de-encryption, new understandings of the brain. Item 2, tissue regeneration, in parentheses, cloning. Hold up, because this is important. A device that can read a human mind, but that device is connected to a process that can clone a human body? All in one document? In part 1, we already discussed Gino Yu, Hong Kong Polytechnic University. He built a 5-stage model for rating how conscious a person is. Stage 1 through stage 5. Kinda like a video game, he mapped out the human soul on a spreadsheet. But what I didn't tell you in part 1 is how deep this actually goes. EFTA 0258136.
Yeah, he did a recent video, Hollywood New. Yep. 3 hours and 33 minutes. Yeah, can't wait to check that out.
Gino Yu writes to Epstein. When you offered...
Or maybe we should break that at some point. Take a look at the video and break it down. Yeah, he seems to be coming into his stride now with this Epstein stuff.
Offered me the $100K last year. My only request has been to support the Cuba conference when they asked for $25K. $100,000, that was Gino Yu's retainer, and his job wasn't just research, it was recruitment. Gino Yu brought Peter Fenwick to Epstein. He brought Dean Radin. And he brought Stuart Hameroff. He connected Epstein to Chinese parapsychology researchers. He found the people studying things that aren't supposed to exist. And then he set up shop. November 2016, Gino Yu writes to Epstein, I picked up a Vive setup that I hope to install at your place. I will also have a custom EEG rig set up as well. A custom EEG rig? That's the device that reads your brainwaves. And he installed it alongside a virtual reality headset an HTC Vive, in the small room off the library of Epstein's Manhattan townhouse. So follow me. Now Jeffrey Epstein has a room in his house where you put on a VR headset and he monitors your brainwaves. Keep in mind, this is the same house where he was supposedly trafficking women.
Whoa. Yeah, I was thinking that maybe they're, maybe they're reading. Like, what if they were to sit down and replay the I don't know what I can say on YouTube, but the unalived video that they just made. So they conduct all this abuse, they film it while they're doing it. Maybe even unalive the individual. And then they sit down and rewatch their footage with that thing on their head. Oh man. In altered carbon, they put their consciousness on a chip and they can go into a body called sleeves. Oh, okay. And rich people have multiple sleeves. Wow.
And apparently he was scoring people. EFTA 026246641. Gino Yu writes to Epstein about a specific woman. In my model, she is a stage 3.5 or so. Then he lays out the full scale. Stage 1, consensus reality. Stage 2, all in one thing. Stage 3, surrendering to the bigger forces at work. Stage 4, intuition and insight. Stage 5, special abilities in a rounded way. Special abilities? That's where the scale ends?
Wow.
Gino Yu was rating real people on it, measuring how close they were to developing abilities that aren't supposed to exist. EFTA 025677715. And then he proposed a program to Epstein called Polystry for rehabilitating 80 stage 3 people who have gifts but cannot support themselves. 80 people in vulnerable altered psychological states who they claim to have gifts. So is this a recruitment pipeline for the psychologically fragile?
Oh, it's like the X-Men.
And the consciousness research wasn't informal. It had a team, a budget, and a name. EFTA 024602676. Peter Fenwick emails Epstein, and the subject? Cosmic consciousness. That's what they called it.
Wow.
Then Fenwick lays out the team to Epstein.
Cosmic consciousness.
Study. Professor Fabio Babiloni for EEG and fMRI brain scanning. Dr. Ioannidis for data analysis in Cyprus. Professor Kevin Moore on autonomic nervous system measurements. And Professor Giuseppe Bersani funding the whole thing from his trust. All to be done at Rome Sapienza University. Then Fenwick writes again. Completed grant application. $441,100. Very good study with controls. Being done in excellent unit. High quality. So it would seem this isn't a hobby. It looks like a funded scientific program with an international team studying what happens to the brain at the boundary of life and death. And Fenwick's specialty is near-death experiences. What happens to consciousness when the body dies? That's what Epstein was paying him to answer. Fenwick was just the beginning. Let me show you who else was on this roster. EFTA 02353378. Dr. Jeffrey Martin, a researcher at Stanford who scientifically maps enlightenment states. He calls it persistent non-symbolic experience, PNSE, a clinical term for what monks spend decades trying to achieve. Martin personally invited Epstein to his transformative technology conference. EFTA 016-12793. Dean Radin, Director of Research at the Institute of Noetic Sciences, Parapsychology, Telepathy, Precognition. Epstein's Skype logs show an incoming call from Dean Radin, 48 minutes and 32 seconds, April 2nd, 2018. A 48-minute phone call with a parapsychologist. Same day, and I mean the same day, as the holy shit spoon email about spoon bending experiments. EFTA 01771437. A program claiming a 73% success rate at engineering enlightenment states. Whoa, so we're not talking about meditation retreats or spiritual workshops. 73% transition rate. They were manufacturing consciousness states like a production line. But you ready to get even crazier? EFTA 02579443. After years of funding this research, years of paying Gino Yu, flying Fenwick around the world, hosting Radin, scanning brains, Epstein writes this: I've seen no one with special abilities. Not one. Wait, what? Nobody had psychic powers? Nobody could bend spoons? Nobody could read minds? So he was testing this. But wait, he kept paying. So why would you keep funding a program that produces zero results? Because Gino Yu told him it was working on someone specific. In the same email chain, after Epstein says, not one, Gino Yu responds, one of the ideas we have for research and application is to get people with special abilities that can also train and mentor from all around the world to support those that are coming into their own, like Masha. Masha Jerkova, the subject of Putin's Kiss, the documentary about Russia's youth propaganda movement. She's mentioned a lot in the archive, and it would seem that she was a test subject. Gino Yu said she was coming into her own, developing abilities, and the plan was to surround her with mentors who already had them. Nobody had proven abilities, but the program to develop them was still running. EFTA 02657514, February 2017. Gino Yu emails Epstein about Jeff Bezos. Authors gather at Jeff Bezos' super secret campfire event. I hear he gets people with special abilities at these events. Whoa, what? So Bezos had his own program? It's the same.
So it's almost like they're creating these mentalists. So the guy who went on Rogan and guessed his PIN number for his bank account. Oh man. So they're taking the remote viewers to the streets. They're farming them.
Same language, special abilities. And it's the same format, invite-only events with these hand-picked people. And Gino Yu is reporting this to Epstein like he's a scout, almost like he's his intelligence. Okay, but now let's talk about Chopra. Chopra sent Epstein everything. Aura measurement apps, biofield science papers, virtual reality meditation experiences. EFTA 01784162, August 2016. Chopra sends Epstein a Guardian article about meditation in virtual reality. Quote, it's like French philosophy meets the Matrix. So it would seem that Chopra was feeding Epstein the technology side of consciousness. And in return, Epstein gave Chopra access, dinners, island visits, conferences. And then there's this. Epstein asked Deepak Chopra, a consciousness researcher, whether anesthetics can affect consciousness and the mechanism. Chopra responds with the pharmacology, then asks, "Why do you ask?" Why was Jeffrey Epstein asking a consciousness researcher about lethal anesthesia? I don't have the answer, but I have this document. Chopra and Epstein were building a research pipeline. EFTA 023-93017. Chopra forwards Epstein a thread about savant syndrome and non-local mind from Daryl Treffert, the world's top savant researcher. 300 documented cases, and in this chain, Dr. Diane Hennessy Powell, a researcher who studies telepathy in autistic children, and Paul Mills from UCSD, who attended a Salk Institute conference on extraordinary variations of the human mind. Epstein's response, "I'll fund the assistant, no help needed." So he funded a telepathy study on children with autism through Chopra's network. Yosha Bach, the AI researcher. He's almost in the file more than anyone else. If Gino Yu was the recruiter, Bach was the theorist. He's the man Epstein turned to when he wanted to understand what consciousness actually is, in mathematical terms. Bach developed a concept he called mobjects. When he wanted to understand what consciousness.
The soul is the dark matter of the brain. The soul is the difference between you and a perfectly rational agent with the same resources. Agreed. Dark matter of the brain. Interesting.
This actually is, in mathematical terms. Bach developed a concept he called mobjects, mathematical objects that describe consciousness as computation. He proposed that the brain is a machine, and consciousness is the software running on it. So, the implication is, if consciousness is software, it can be copied. Over $1 million confirmed, $300,000 for a visa arrangement, $382,000 through the enhanced entity in 2016, $125,000 in 2018. Flights, housing, MIT salary supplements. Again, this wasn't a hobby. Epstein was Bach's primary patron. And let's not forget the whole secret society email with Bach's group. We talked about this in part 2, but now you have the context. Psychedelic retreats for select individuals? You may have thought it was the billionaires who wanted to take the psychedelics, but no, we're talking about physiological experiments, a private intelligence agency, a cryptographically secure social network, and then, direct quote from Michelle Riley, high-profile island you-know-what also independently come to mind, but I have a strong suspicion that you may already have that covered. Do you get it now? They knew. The inner circle was joking about it. Okay, but a theory isn't enough.
Isn't dark matter what they're trying to find at CERN with the colliders? Oh, interesting. Yeah, there's the Higgs Boson, the Higgs boson particle. The God particle. But yeah, maybe.
Isn't enough. You need a map of the actual hardware. EFTA 02375911.
I'm trying to create consciousness.
A meeting. Ed Boyden, MIT neuroscientist, inventor of expansion microscopy, the man building an atlas of brain computations. Next to him, Whitfield Diffie.
Yeah, what if consciousness is kind of like what they're trying to do with the quantum computers, where it's in this like absolute zero completely quarantined off, and you got the little chip just kind of in suspension. And what if there is this light, the thing behind the eyes, that spark, and what if that light is actually sound? It's that golden harmony.
The godfather of public key cryptography in Martin Novak, evolutionary mathematician. Okay, so a brain mapper, a code breaker, and an evolution theorist in the same room at Epstein's request. Why would you need a cryptographer at a brain mapping meeting unless you're trying to decode something? Boyden, quote, "A single neuron can flip the state of the whole brain," end quote. So one cell, one switch, and consciousness shifts entirely. EFTA 02357394, Boyden again. This time with Sebastian Sung and Neil Gershenfeld. So they're invited to Epstein's island, and the subject of the meeting? Deception. The world's top brain mappers on a private island discussing deception. Sebastian Sung wrote a book called Connect to Me. The thesis? You are your connect to me. Your identity, your memories, your personality, your consciousness is encoded in the wiring pattern of your neurons. Map every connection, and you've mapped the person. EFTA 01880316. And here's where it gets a little uncomfortable. The person who recommended Connect to Me to Epstein? Jean-Luc Brunel. The trafficking associate? The man later found dead in his Paris jail cell? He's the one who told Epstein to read the book about mapping human consciousness through neural wiring. A trafficker recommending a neuroscience book to a PDF. I'll let you sit with that. And this wasn't happening in a vacuum. Silicon Valley was in the room. EFTA 01789503, Reid Hoffman, LinkedIn founder, emails Epstein and Mark Zuckerberg together. Quote, "Jeffrey, Zuck, email connections from the Ed Boyden dinner so that the combo can continue." Wait, so let me get this straight. Reid Hoffman introduced Mark Zuckerberg to Jeffrey Epstein. And the reason? A dinner about neuroscience hosted by Ed Boyden, the brain mapper. This wasn't just a billionaire party. This was a working meeting about the brain, and Hoffman wanted Zuckerberg and Epstein to keep talking about it. Take note about that for later. Same, Reid Hoffman, same year. EFTA 01788970. The subject line, Skype about deception. So what's up with this deception stuff? Recipients, Hoffman, Joy Ito, Kevin Slavin, and Epstein. Hoffman responds, generally around this week and next, interested. Reid Hoffman, Joy Ito from MIT Media Lab, and Jeffrey Epstein organizing a group call to discuss deception. That's a pattern. And then someone in Epstein's circle, text, very intrigued by Neuralink. Did like Chopra at the beginning, but have grown disappointed with him. AI fascinates me. So, Neuralink, Chopra, and AI, all in one message. The brain-computer interface, the consciousness researcher, and the machine intelligence. It all connects to Epstein. Stage 3 of the pipeline. Once you understand consciousness and you've modeled the brain, you need to preserve it, because eventually the body dies. Listen closely. there's a company called Nectome. Their technology is chemical brain preservation. They pump a solution through your brain that fixes every neural connection in place, permanently. The idea is that someday, someone could scan that preserved brain and extract the connectomy, the wiring diagram of who you were. And Jeffrey Epstein was tracking them. EFTA 02506384, March 2018. Epstein reaches out to Yosha Bach about brain preservation options. He wants to know what's the state of the art, what works, and what doesn't. EFTA 02470197. Bach meets Nectome's CEO, Robert McIntyre, and in person, and reports this back to Epstein. He sent Bach as a scout. Meet the CEO, evaluate the technology, report back. EFTA 02508072, and in the discussion about Nectome, someone writes,
"It's very
Sam
dense.
Altman has signed up as far as I know." As always, chances that the current plan for restoring memory from connectomy works one day are quite close to nothing but absolute zero. Structure might be better preserved than in traditional cryo, but tissue gone. So, Sam Altman, the man who would go on to run OpenAI, signed up for brain preservation through Nectome? And this is being discussed in Epstein's documents alongside connectomy analysis in cryonics comparisons? But Nectome wasn't the only option. There was also Alcor. EFTA 02454349. Marvin Minsky, the father of artificial intelligence, MIT legend, had a cryonics contract with Alcor. His brain was to be preserved after death.
Whoa.
And the man running Alcor? Max Moore. Here's a quote from the archive. Max Moore, CEO of Alcor, the leading cryonics firm, and before that, arguably the founding philosopher of transhumanism. Now, this detail has been reported before, but I want you to hear it in this context. The New York Times citing a source in the archive. Mr. Epstein told this person that he wanted his head and private parts to be frozen. His head, where the brain is.
Oh, okay. So a little bit of that head thing where they're carrying around the head. We talked about that in the past. Seems like they're trying to tell us something. They're preserving their body.
Brain is, and his reproductive organs. The two things you need to preserve if your goal was to rebuild yourself. And in his personal notes, Epstein saves a reference to Frank Tipler's The Physics of Immortality, a book that argues physics allows for digital resurrection, that the laws of the universe permit bringing consciousness back from the dead. This obviously wasn't just casual reading. Alright, so map the mind, model the brain, preserve it after death. That's 3 stages. But a preserved brain in a jar doesn't do anything. You need somewhere to put it. Now let me show you what the body was for. If you saw part 1, you know George Church, Harvard geneticist, gene editing, CRISPR.
We missed part 1.
But there's a detail from part 1 that becomes much darker now. EFTA 02546529, November 18th, 2011. George Church is corresponding about a cloning-related event. He's cautious. He knows the risk. And Epstein was getting cloning updates from Richard Merkin, CEO of Heritage Provider Network. And these were regular updates on cloning progress. In part 1, this looked like eugenics, like he wanted to breed a certain kind of human. Now, it looks like step 4 of the pipeline. Build a compatible vessel.
There's
In
a
part
vessel.
2, we talked about David Hansen, the creator of Sophia, the world's most famous humanoid robot. Sophia. What I told you in part 2 is that Hansen is a member of the OTO, Aleister Crowley's occult order. A man building human-looking robots while belonging to a sex magic society. EFTA 02229729, Hanson Robotics. Direct Skype calls with Jeffrey Epstein. Multiple conversations. About what? Building humanoid bodies. But it doesn't stop there. EFTA 02725875. The proposal, we talked about this, Genie Lab. $3 million. And the pitch includes, and I need you to hear this,
Genie
sexy
Lab.
android bodies.
Wow.
Sexy android bodies with mind uploading in a $3 million proposal connected to Epstein's network. A lab that would build attractive humanoid bodies and upload minds into them. And the scientists that would make it work were already in the network. Randall Conant. In the archive, he says, the leading serious scientific exponent of mind uploading. He runs Carbon Copies, the foundation for substrate independent minds. The idea that a mind doesn't need a biological brain, it can run on anything. In the same document, Luke Nosek, PayPal Mafia, Peter Thiel's co-founder at Found.
Yeah, I didn't know he was connected to the Crawley Secret Society. It seems like it's all connected to that. Like all Jack Parsons developing the atom bomb, right? Says when they Scientology. In the Bible, whatever the breath of life was that God gave Adam, they're trying to figure out what the consciousness side of it. Yep, because breath of life is figure of speech. So you're saying that trying to figure out what the consciousness side of it, of the life, yeah.
Founders Fund, and Dmitry Itskov's 2045 initiative, premised on launching the singularity from Russia by 2045. These aren't just fringe characters, these are billionaires and venture capitalists funding the technological architecture for moving a mind from one body to another. But what's even crazier is, maybe you don't need a robot. Maybe you build a better biological body.
That's just ask Dave Chappelle.
EFTA 02003049. Epstein writes, evolution, luck, chance. Evolution's not growth. One needs mutation, change to function. Directed evolution. Directed evolution, not natural selection, not random chance, guided. Frances Arnold, Caltech, she won the Nobel Prize in 2018 for the directed evolution of enzymes. She offered to teach Epstein about breeding molecules in microbes. Epstein was interested, but not in microbes. EFTA 01785366. And then there's this line. Virtual womb for all those preemies we are breeding.
Whoa.
Preemies we are breeding. Virtual wombs. He's telling you, this is the body side of the pipeline. Breed better humans, grow them in artificial wombs, direct the evolution, build the vessel. Part 1 was about genetics, but now you see why. The genetics weren't a separate project. They were stage 4. This is where it all connects, and this is the part that nobody has reported. EFTA 02642274. How do savants know things they never learn?
I swear Parsons, Crawley, Manly P. Hall, and Alice Bailey have screwed up the world beyond. There's so, I mean, they were going out of their way to summon up the Antichrist, I guess, doing something weird, eating mud pies. I'm glad we have Instagram and TikTok to distract the youth so that we don't get the majority of the people into sorcery and magic. Like, it seemed like they were operating it. Although that's all that they were doing. All the sacrifices, all that. You're saying this falls in line with altered carbon, and that was a movie back in 2017. You were saying, wow, yep. A lot of those older movies will just kind of tell you how it'll be laid out.
My explanation is genetic memory, the genetic transmission of knowledge. Genetic memory, the idea that knowledge, consciousness itself, can be passed through DNA, not taught or learned, inherited. If that's true, then consciousness isn't just software running on the brain. It's encoded in the genes. And if it's in the genes, you can breed for it, edit for it, select for it. Part 1 was genetics. This is consciousness. And Epstein believed they were the same thing. Chopra's response to this email makes it even darker. In the same thread, same EFTA, Chopra pushes back with a detail that changes everything. He tells Epstein about an acquired savant with an entirely different skill post-injury. Acquired savants. People who suffer brain injuries, car accidents, strokes, trauma, and wake up with abilities they never had before.
That's what Rosie O'Donnell? No, Roseanne Barr said. She got into a car accident, received major trauma to her head, and ever since then she felt like she could tap into things. And she said that she got really creative. I think even talking about she started painting and doing a bunch of stuff. A little trauma in your life will keep you creative.
Perfect musical pitch, calendar calculation, photographic memory, skills that appear from nowhere after the brain is damaged. If trauma can unlock abilities that were always encoded in the brain, abilities you never learned, abilities that might come from genetic memory, then Epstein's experiments on women take on a different dimension. Was he testing whether psychological trauma could trigger altered states of consciousness? Whether breaking someone's normal awareness could unlock something underneath? I mean, he was measuring whether psychological trauma could trigger altered states of consciousness.
So Altered States movie there.
Whether breaking someone's normal.
Is this the enemy that you're mentioning?
Awareness could unlock something underneath. I mean, he was measuring belief thresholds with 200 women. He was funding research on savant telepathy in children with neurological differences. And now Chopra is telling him that brain damage creates savants? What if the trauma wasn't a side effect of the research, but actually a variable? Deepak Chopra was pushing the same idea, but from the other direction. Chopra's book, Super Genes, argues that the evolution of species is the evolution of consciousness. That genes don't just build bodies, they build awareness. EFTA 02045681. Epstein and Chopra visiting the Alchemist Kitchen together, an apothecary in Manhattan. Plant medicine, consciousness expansion, alchemy, they were practicing this kind of stuff.
Here it's Akira. In Akira, they were abusing kids to unlock these telepathic abilities. Oh my god! So that's what they're. One of the kids went rogue and destroyed Japan. It's a crazy show. Wow. So yeah, it puts a little bit of a twist on, you know, the abuse that was going on. Maybe it was government-funded experiments or privately funded experiments to see if you could unlock these telepathic abilities. Very strange. Very strange. Well, this looks like a really good watch. We got a few more minutes left. We can finish this one up.
And then there's this conference, EFTA 02397964, a session titled Gene Editing in Consciousness. Whoa, a conference on gene editing in consciousness connected to Epstein's network. That's the bridge. The genetics program from part 1 and the consciousness program from part 3 meet in one room. And the thesis is, edit the genes, edit the mind.
Really?
Well, let's talk about this Dmitry Itskov.
So, wow, really? So then they can implant, if they're editing the genes, then they can implant memory, genetic code, which then, once they're put in this traumatic event, then unlocks it. So they'll clone, create designer babies, clone them using CRISPR to keep these information packets within their genetic code, raise them or grow them, and then once they're what do you even call that? They're not born, but they're harvested. Then they put them through all this trauma to see if those information packets become unlocked. Eesh. Wow. And then they get heightened abilities and maybe even telepathy and you gotta watch it. Transhumanism was a main part of the show. Akira, yeah. Oh, it was good. In the show, it was government funded. Yeah, yeah. It's the new MK Ultra.
in conscious.
And what's strange too is I'd seen that Cumberbatch actor where he was wearing this, you know, it was almost like they're doing some kind of CGI stuff. So he's wearing a suit and this headgear, and he's crawling on the ground and acting like this, like he's like some kind of animal character. And then in post they'll make him a whatever cartoon that he's doing or whatever beast. But just the contraption itself looked very much like some kind of MK Ultra head skull thing. And it makes me wonder, between government funded technology and government funded TV and film projects, well, then you have actors that have been put through the whole gauntlet, the abuse, all that to try to get them activated and then get them to test out. It's a good way to then launder these technologies into more of a real world test environment, and then you get to film it, and then people are like, wow, that's so good, it looks so real, when that kid was screaming and crying. It's like, no, it was. No, I don't know if it with the kids and stuff, but yeah, everyone's got to go way method, all because of Daniel Day-Lewis. Yeah, it's like, okay, he's good, but just we all don't need to be so good. But yeah, maybe they had a big old pipeline in the entertainment industry to create these Manchurian candidates. And could be interesting. Yeah, you're saying that I think when you're an actor, you have to kind of be an empty vessel. Yep. Become a character, so mind control stuff and acting. Yep, it goes hand in hand. You gotta, not think. You gotta react, or you gotta think as if you're that person. Yeah, it's very much being that empty vessel. And a lot of these actors too, they'll get into really weird stuff so that they kind of take on a possession. So they do have to empty themselves and then take on the spirit of what they're summoning.
Consciousness connected to Epstein's network. That's the bridge. The genetics program from part 1 and the consciousness program from part 3 meet in one room. And the thesis is, edit the genes, edit the mind. But let's talk about this Dmitry Itskov. Russian tech billionaire, founder of the 2045 initiative, and his public mission is to achieve human immortality through mind uploading by the year 2045. EFTA 020-78308, May 2015. Itskov and Gino Yu, Epstein's consciousness recruiter, are arranging to meet in New York. They already know each other, both in Epstein's orbit, the mind-uploading billionaire and the consciousness stage mapper connecting through Epstein. The same month, Epstein writes to Itzkov, I spent the weekend with Chomsky at my house. Great.
Chomsky's.
Strong views, but clever. Noam Chomsky, the most cited intellectual of the 20th century.
It makes sense why a linguist would then be part of this stuff too. Trying to, sew all this together through the thread of language.
And in the same thread, Itzkov mentions meeting a Buddhist monk who works for MIT and is interested in AI. We discussed possible AI self-awareness. Then, Epstein sends Itzkov a link to Rupert Sheldrake's online telepathy test. So Jeffrey Epstein sends the mind-uploading billionaire a telepathy experiment? Sheldrake's morphic resonance.
Oh.
The idea that consciousness extends beyond the brain, that minds can connect at a distance.
Yeah.
This is another bridge. Mind uploading meets telepathy meets AI self-awareness meets genetic memory in one email chain.
Wow.
In part 2, I showed you the occult library. Now you might have thought that that was separate from the science, but it's not. Epstein didn't see a difference. To him, Newton was an alchemist and a physicist. Consciousness was a genetic trait and a mystical state. The soul was dark matter and something you could upload. Okay, but everything that I've shown you so far, the brain mappers, the AI theorists, the VR rigs, the cryonics evaluations, all of it sounds like cutting edge research, and you maybe could argue that it's noble. But now let me show you who the test subjects were. EFTA 024-02848. David Savage asked Epstein,
Holland,
you did an experiment with 200 girls where you held their hands and rating them? And Epstein responds,
what?
I did this with 200 girls. Each one had to rate the accuracy of diagnosis on a scale of 1 to 10. The written diagnosis was exactly the same for each. What? 200 girls given the same fake reading, and he's measuring how many of them believed it. EFTA 024-53747. Then Epstein designs another round for Savage. 10 women, you will need to touch each one. And his takeaway from all of this? Believing is more fun. But he's not debunking anything. He was measuring who could be made to believe and how fast. 200 women, the same fake reading, and scoring their conviction. But why touch? Well, because a neuroscientist told him that it works. EFTA 021-92305. Peter Fenwick, the same man running the Cosmic Consciousness program, tells Epstein that touch activates their hormonal system and that dominance hierarchy matters. So the science wasn't separate from the exploitation. Okay, but the women knew.
Wow.
Listen to what they wrote. EFTA 027-21399. A woman writes to Epstein, you described me as a failed experiment. I didn't know that I was a part of one. Am I an unsuspecting Galatea or a pawn in your dealings with Leon? Am I an unsuspecting Galatea? Galatea from Greek mythology. Pygmalion sculpts the perfect woman and brings her to life. So this Pygmalion sculpts the
Galatea of the spheres. Wow.
Perfect woman and brings her to life. So this woman is asking Epstein, am I?
And that's what it seems like all those sculptures are. I mean, it really looks like real people.
One of your unsuspecting creations that you sculpted and brought to life? EFTA 018-62162. Another email about a different woman. Quote, for me it's a great experiment. Taking a girl who hadn't been with a guy until she was 23 and then getting her to this point? She is sufficiently confused and I think you can get some mileage out of this. What? She is sufficiently confused. You can get some mileage. A great experiment. Now, with this context,
it said, amazing girls, maybe blondes with great bodies. So-and-so emailed me saying you unalived her with your words, calling her silly, etc. She is alone this week in New York. She has less money on this trip. Wow. She's desperate for cash. Cash Patel. I've been working on her. She agreed with me in that posing lingerie is part of her job. Wow.
a great experiment. Now, with this context, he's using the same word.
This is cosmic consciousness maxing.
The woman that he used for the consciousness research. Experiment. We have to consider whether they were a part of the same program. These spiritual practices and ideas weren't separate from the exploitation. They were the same delivery mechanism. EFTA 017436115. A message about Kundalini yoga class. Meet me at class 9:30.
Oh, Kundalini
so many hot
yoga.
girls promise. Abundant at a Kundalini class. And then there are the meeting notes. EFTA 020457779.
I remember a long time ago. I should never mind. I shouldn't even say. But yeah, never mind. Never mind. So,
Action items from
Kundalini.
Epstein's meeting. Design fun experiments, e.g. mice on DMT and environmental medicine meme. Mice on DMT? That was the brainstorming idea at Epstein's meeting? Design a fun experiment, psychedelics on animals, and create a meme around environmental medicine. So that's the brand for their research? EFTA 022714445, January 2019, 6 months before his arrest. Gino Yu writes to Epstein, I will also have a shaman with me, as well as a psychonaut that grows his own mushrooms.
Yeah.
A shaman and a mushroom grower traveling with the consciousness recruiter coordinated in the same email chain as Yushabat. EFTA 02676253. We talked about this in part 2. Sacred Space, New York. An invoice to Epstein. 50 digital urban detox solution massage rituals.
Sounds like old school pimps, like Iceberg Slim.
$200 each.
Nice.
Total $10,000. Pre-purchased in bulk through JP Morgan Chase. Massage rituals, digital urban detox. It's basically consciousness language wrapped around a $10,000 massage invoice. EFTA 02045162, August 2016. Bebe Avdio, an assistant working out of Darren Indike's law office, confirms to Epstein 4 girls in total, and they are all 17. 2016, post-conviction, after the plea deal, after the sex offender registration. 4 girls, all 17, confirmed from the lawyer's office. But the reason I bring this up is because the consciousness experiments, the brain mapping, the VR rigs, the meditation apps, the enlightenment programs, all of this was running at the same time as this. EFTA 0003781. A girl tried to swim off the island.
Whoa.
The bodyguard confirmed it.
Wow.
She tried to swim. In his assessment, her attempt showed no greater level of distress than he'd seen in other girls throughout the years. So he's seen this before. Other girls trying to escape the island. And the bodyguard himself told investigators he was frightened by Epstein. Apparently, all the workers signed million-dollar NDAs, and they're petrified to talk. So 5 stages. Map the consciousness. Gino Yu, Fenwick, Radin, Martin, Chopra. Understand what it is. Then, model the brain. Yo Shabak, Ed Boyden, Sebastian Sung. Describe it mathematically. Then, preserve the brain. Neck tone, all-core, cryonics. Keep it after death. Next, you build a new body. George Church, David Hansen, Genie Lab, directed evolution. Create a vessel. Then, the transfer. The mind reader device. Read the mind, clone the body, upload. And at every stage, at every single stage, the research ran in parallel with this exploitation. The brain scanner was in the same house as the trafficking. The consciousness researcher and the massage therapist used the same vocabulary. The experiment was a scientific term and a word for woman. So we have to question whether he separated the two. And look, you might think this is crazy, you might think this is all nonsense. But here's the thing. This technology is happening right now. Everyone knows Elon is building the brain chip. And it would seem that their excuse is obviously to help the disabled.
All those robots.
But listen to what he told shareholders. He thinks uploading a mind into a robot body is less than 20 years away.
Well, and not just that, but it's like once you get the Neuralink chip, all those Tesla bots, you can control those Tesla bots with your chip, your brain chip. And then that's scalable. So you don't have to stop with just one Tesla bot. You can have 2 or 5. And you can control them all through your brain chip. Now, think of it like, well, what if you have 1,000 or 10,000? Well, it looks like you got yourself an army. So it's gonna be interesting. Going to be interesting the next few years.
You think they're going to tell us the truth? And then there's an EFTA in the archive where someone in Epstein's circle writes, and quote, very intrigued by Neuralink. I wonder if there's a connection. But get this. Remember how I told you to take a note earlier? Just last week, Meta was granted a patent. And the actual patent is for training an AI on everything you've ever posted, every comment, every DM, every voice message, so that it can simulate you after you die. The AI takes over your account. Epstein was funding the research, and now the tech companies are filing the patents. And let's finish off with this document. Epstein writing about someone who died. Socrates proves the immortality of the soul. I see her soul, very young, full of energy, getting ready to leave. I see people surrounded by their soul. So he believed in the soul. He obviously was spiritual to a certain degree. He believed he could survive the body, and he spent millions of dollars and over a decade trying to prove it. Whether he succeeded or not isn't the point. The point is the pipeline existed, the funding existed, the scientists existed, and the test subjects existed. All the documents have EFTA numbers and you can verify them for yourself. Part 1 was what Epstein was building. The genetics, the baby farms, the egg doctor. Part 2 was the secret societies, the occult, and the control system. Part 3 is the consciousness pipeline, mapping it, modeling it, preserving it, and building new bodies for it. But we're not done. There's more in these documents that still has not been shown yet. Make sure you like and subscribe so you don't miss part 4. And keep dropping those EFTA numbers.
Well, that's a good look into Epstein uploading consciousness from Mind Unveiled. I'm officially... The veil has been officially torn asunder. And from the top bottom. And good stuff there. And just like he said, hit that like button. Subscribe to Old Clip Virgin here. We like to take a look at conspiracy theories, comedians, and a whole lot of Kurt Metzger. He combines the two. But if you like this sort of thing, hang out with us during the live chat here. Appreciate you guys hanging out that came out tonight. And we will do this again. So thank you so much. Had a blast. And I'll see you next time.